Hello, driving at home community. We love coming to this location because this is one of the best spots to get a sense of the juxtaposition of the sublime and the ridiculous, or the ridiculous or the sublime and the ridiculous, whichever way you want to see it. Because we're here at not what it seems like, which this looks like a nuclear power plant cooling tower, but in actuality this is a cooling tower for a coal-fired power plant. This train here is actually, I don't know if you can see it, but all these hoppers are full to the brim with clean coal, right? It's all clean. When in actuality it is what it is. Burning coal, supposedly, right, puts carbon into the air, and that's supposedly what's causing global warming, depending on which way you want to look at that, how you see the science happening. But what I want to do here is actually go nuclear with this plant, believe it or not. After growing up with all the horror stories of 3 Mile Island meltdowns and Chernobyl, Ukraine having another meltdown and fallout for years and still there, you should check out those videos, especially the one about the dogs in Ukraine. It's pretty cool. It's kind of cute. The dogs are thriving over there near Chernobyl. And actually, we also had that recent happening in Japan, Fukushima, during the big tsunami that came in there and overwhelmed the backup generators because they designed it where they were too low and they got inundated with the floodwaters that came in. That could have been averted just by raising up the level of those backup generators. But I actually hopefully will encourage you all to encourage your community and wherever you are, to look into going with nuclear power for your base load power generating needs in your community, in your country, in your state, wherever you are. I have an article here actually that came out today in London by, who is this? Reuters. This is a Reuters article. It said Britain opens competition to develop small nuclear plants by 2030. No, by the 2030s. So, it says Britain on Tuesday opened a competition to develop small modular nuclear reactors. You've heard that here on our prior videos. And is aiming to see them operating in the country by the early 2030s, according to Energy Security Minister Grant Shapps. Probably a good chap, I'd say. Britain is seeking to increase its nuclear power capacity to 24 gigawatts by 2050 as part of efforts to meet climate targets and boost energy security. That would meet around a quarter of projected electricity demand, compared with 14% today. So they're going from 14% generated by nuclear today to a quarter, which would be 25%. So they're going up 11 percentage points in their generating power by nuclear. That's a good target. But it's not zero carbon, mind you, because there's already 75% somewhere else going in there. Some of that might be wind and solar, but I'm guessing that a majority of the rest of that is coal or oil or natural gas. It goes on to say large new nuclear projects with high upfront costs have struggled to attract financing, and the government hopes some older plants could be replaced by a fleet of SMRs, small modular reactors, which can be made in factories with lower costs and faster construction. Sorry for the lighting here. I'm not coming to you from Hollywood or the back lots of wherever. I'm in the back lots of a coal-fired power plant. So to go on with our article, because it's important for us to hear this, because this is what you want to do in your community and what we want to do here in our community. So it says, from Tuesday, companies can register their interest in the government's SMR competition. The new Great British Nuclear Body, also launched on Tuesday, will select technologies that have met the criteria later this year. I would expect to see them in the 2030s, hopefully the early 2030s, Shaps told journalists. Selected companies will start discussions as part of an invitation to negotiate phase, with a final investment decision to be taken in 2029, Shaps said. The SMR competition was first announced alongside the budget in March. In 2021, the government committed £210 million, which is roughly $275 million, to Rolls-Royce for its £500 million SMR program, which could see the company open factories to build the reactors in Britain. Take another look at this cooling tower. While you think about going with small modular reactor nuclear power generating plants in your area or somewhere nearby, because that's the future if you want to go zero carbon. The SMR competition was first announced alongside the budget in March. Oh, I already read that part, so that was a freebie. As the only SMR technology in the UK regulatory process, we are at least 18 months ahead of any competitor and are ready to work with the government at pace to bolster the country's energy security, said Rolls-Royce SMR Chief Executive Chris Collerton. Before new nuclear reactors can be deployed, they must get approval from Britain's Office for Nuclear Regulation, a process that has typically taken 4 to 5 years. So if today is 2023, the process could take up to what, 2027, 2028 to get approval, and then they start building them. So I don't know if you're going to go zero carbon by 2030, because this is the only route with nuclear to do that. Shaps said Rolls-Royce has a well-advanced program, but it is important to make sure the right technologies are chosen. Other SMR developers include GE Hitachi, NewScale, and X Energy and Westinghouse. So keep those in mind when you're talking to your community leaders about where to go get small modular reactors, because all these companies will do it for you. I think it's so fitting that the sun is trying to peek out from behind this cooling tower to tell us maybe nuclear is the way to go to get your energy, right? All right, so Shaps said the competition could unlock up to £20 billion of funding, but said there was no commitment for that amount to be spent. Britain announced a previous competition for SMRs in 2015, which ultimately closed in 2017 without moving beyond the initial information gathering first stage. That's another reason why I'm talking to you about this, because it's going to take people like you to prod your leaders to go nuclear, because it's safe and effective. See? All right. Britain announced the previous, let's see, I already talked about that. Along with SMRs, the government said it is committed to large-scale new projects, easy for me to say, such as EDF's Hinkley Point C, the first new plant in more than 20 years, and Sizewell C, in which the government has invested around £700 million, becoming a 50% shareholder in the development phase. So, what do we learn? So what do you take away from this? You take away the fact that when you drive your electric vehicle around and it's clean and it's not putting any carbon into the air, then you go home and you plug it in. And when you plug it in, the electricity comes from places like this carbon coal-fired plant, or other places like natural gas or oil-fired plants. Some of it might come from wind with the turbines, and some might come from solar, using the nuclear that's coming off of that and the light hitting your photovoltaic cells. But that is very minor compared to the actual amount of energy that is produced by the good old-fashioned fossil fuels today. So if you like the idea of the government enforcing people to go zero carbon by 2030, by 2035, whatever the case may be, I would suggest that you talk to people about getting our fleet of power generating plants switched over to, that's right, nuclear. And as we see, it's going to take an effort that is led by government to help get over the hurdles that people have for both the liability that they fear, which is not there, and also the regulatory burden that the companies do not want to tackle at this point because it's too difficult from a profit standpoint to make sure that long term they will come out above water. There's no question that if we're going to try to go zero carbon at any point, it's going to require nuclear power plants to be built. The most likely sites for those would be actually to put them in place where there's currently a nuclear power generating plant currently. So think about that. If you live near a nuclear plant, request them to augment that power generation from that plant. If you live near a coal-fired plant, don't ask them to decommission it. Ask them, what are they going to build to replace it? Because that's how you know if you're going to go zero carbon, not whether you drive an EV, electric vehicle. Because, again, they have to plug in. So, I think I've spent enough time ranting and reading and prodding, but hopefully you understand. If you don't, leave a comment, leave a question in the comments. If you don't agree with me, tell me so in the comments. And if you agree or have a different take on it, then also leave that in the comments. But most of all, join us for the next video and subscribe. See you next time on Driving Home.